What's good? Cyrus here. We're doing a little bit of afternoon tea or afternoon spice today. Had to get some errands and stuff done this morning. I didn't get my workout in. Little salty about that. Probably won't today. So I'll just do a skip day. But I, for some reason, I was focused today on the dichotomy of two babbling buffoons. One of them, Joe Biden, another of them, a young lady that was on one of these relationship type podcasts. They really blow up because they're very interesting. And I'm going to kind of show very different babbling buffoons, but both nonetheless. I'm actually going to start, believe it or not, though, trying to show why Brandon is actually not at fault here for this incident that you might have seen. The video's been going kind of viral. So I'll get started with that. Thanks for joining. This is in regards to one of the biggest tragedies going on in our country right now. And one of the biggest tragedies going on in our country right now is a drug pandemic, if you will. It's a very serious thing going on. It's been going on for quite some time. It reminds me a lot of inner city violence in that it's both ruled by the cartels or gangs. Politicians are bought out, allegedly, and there doesn't seem to be an answer for it. It only seems to be getting worse, in fact. So that's where I'm going to go and take this. I'm going to get the Rumble stream going. I did not hook up the Rumble stream, and I'm going to do that right now. And then I'm going to start with what happened with Brandon and why I don't think it's fair to blame him. It's always fair to hold politicians accountable, but I do not believe it's fair to blame him. And I'm going to go ahead and show why here in a second. All right, so let me give the video here. I'm going to go through New York Post is where I'm going to get this video from. They had the longer footage of it on Twitter. I was seeing the shorter footage trending, and the shorter, it was like 15-second clip. This one is about 50 seconds, I believe. It gives a little bit more context to what he was kind of laughing about and doing here.
Taylor Greene and
So he's talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
a little bit of more Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few more, you're going to have a lot of Republicans running our way. Isn't she amazing? Oof. Ours, the reason she was very specific. I shouldn't digress probably. I've read. She was very specific recently, saying that a poor mother who lost 2 kids to fentanyl, that I killed her sons. Well, the interesting thing is that fentanyl they took came during the last administration. Look, folks. Anyway, I don't want to get started.
So I think it is fair to say Brandon was really more trying to laugh at Marjorie Taylor Greene, in my opinion. So I think it is a little bit being misconstrued here. This one does need some context. The community notes in Twitter have failed me in a couple recent incidents, and I'm not trusting it as much as I used to. One was the sunflower country, and the other one was they're both in regards to the sunflower country. That's very interesting. One was about the sunflower country and what Zelly said about if basically it wasn't blackmail, I guess, technically, but he was basically like, if you don't give us money, then we're going to get into this conflict and your sons and daughters are going to be the ones on the front lines, basically. And then the other one was Jackson Hinkle, friend of show, was put on what I would refer to as a sunflower country hit list, unlive list. But technically it's ran by a private group, so they put a context label on that. And I'm like, well, you can put context on forever. So I can put a context on your context that governments very often use private businesses as a cover for things they don't want to own up. Where does the context stop? But this one does need some context. I'm gonna play it again here, and I can see what happened. I've been watching Brandon for years. I can see exactly what happened here.
A little bit of more.
Let me make sure my audio. I didn't do it. Okay, yeah. So let me play this here.
Or Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few more, you're going to have a lot of Republicans running our way.
So he's talking about Republicans running to the Democratic Party. And he's saying if you got more Marjorie Taylor Greenes, they're going to chase people to us. So that's fine. There's just political rhetoric. Nothing wrong here. If you notice Brandon, when he makes a lot of mistakes, even when he was, had his cognitive ability all with him, when he gets he tries to be very witty. Here he wasn't trying to be witty, but my point is he tries to get witty to get laughs from the crowd. He's always been that way. And when he gets those laughs, that's where he gets the energy to go down this path.
On our way.
I don't think he expected those laughs. You look at his face, he looks like he's aged a lot. Let me go back to that speech he made. Was that when he was announced as the winner? I mean, he looked like 20 years younger. Victory speech, I think, the one where he was thanking black women over. Yeah, he looks like a different person. I'm going to share the screen here. He looks almost like looks like old Joe. Like the Joe that, you knew from back in the day.
Delawareans. And I'm humbled by the trust and confidence you placed in me.
Wow. Man, that job is, and that's not a knock on him. I mean, that's why he shouldn't have been chosen. That's why part of the reason I'm not with Pappy, they're just too old. When was that? 2020, whenever that was announced. I don't know if it was December, but it took forever. November, December 2020. And then you go to this incident right here. I mean, he looks like he's went from 60 to 80. And he is 80 right now, but I mean, he aged a ton. Look at him now. Whoops, that's not the one I wanted to share. Look at him now. He is aged. Man, that job is no joke. You saw what happened to Obama, too.
A few more, you're going to have a lot of Republicans running our way.
Look at him. Like he's aged. It's only been a couple years through, not even full 3 years. 2 years, basically. So he got laughter. He's surprised that he got laughter, and it gives him energy to go down this path. Then he smiles. He's like, I'm back. It's kind of like an old guy taking some Viagra, like, I'm back in the game. That was his political version of the blue pill. I'm back. And you saw him like, oh, I got some laughs.
Isn't she amazing?
Then he tried to play off of it with his forced fake charm. Isn't she amazing? Just so slimy. But that's many politicians.
Ooh.
Man, he looks old. He looks really old there.
Ours, the reason she was very specific. I shouldn't digress probably.
So he said I shouldn't digress probably. That's because everybody who's around him says, stop doing it. You fail every single time you do it. Politicians, when you're dealing with politics, you've got to be on top of your game. Should I blame Trump? No. Yes or no? Should I throw Mayor Pete under the bus? Yes or no? Is Kamala with me? Yes or no? What's going on in the Sunflower Country? What's going on in East Palestine? These things are coming fast, fast, fast. The crowd's laughing. Should I move on? Should I digress? Should I go on? It's too fast for somebody who's 80 years old. It's just not. That's not the role for somebody in that age group. This thing is fast hitting. In this moment, what do? Do I go back to the teleprompter? People are laughing. Do I just ignore it? Do I go back to it? You got to go boom, 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 boom. And he can't go. That's why they say don't go off script, Brandon, because you're off script. You're going boom, 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 boom. Talking to Stephen Ignoramus, friend of show. And when I was on with him one of the times, I believe, or maybe I was just listening to his live, he was talking about when you do a live, like when I started YouTube, everything was recorded. And then I got the courage to do a live, or not just courage, just, desire to try it out and see what it was like. And I was like, the live it was completely different, knowing that you're live, even if I didn't have anybody in the chat. Better which, you're right. He's very hard he's slurring his words, very hard to understand. And he was not before. But there's an energy, there's a pace to it that doing a live show is different. So he's going not just live, he's not on a teleprompter. I had to tell my son watching TV, like, these people are reading off a teleprompter, when they're obviously reading off of one. He's like, oh, wow, he didn't know, obviously. And it's different. It's different. And that's what's happening here with Brandon. He's going off script, and you've got to be quicker. You've got to be thinking through these things real quick. I'm talking about a mother who just lost 2 sons to a drug epidemic in our country. I mean to laugh about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but is this an appropriate time to laugh? Now, this mistake can happen to anybody. I mean, I've laughed at bad times where I've like, oh, I didn't mean to laugh like that, or should I laugh, or am I laughing not to cry, or whatever. You got to be thinking on the fly.
I've read.
His brain's not quick enough to do this. Stop doing this.
She was very specific recently, saying that a poor mom.
He's off script. And his team right now is watching him like, oh, no. It should be easy off script, going after your political enemy, Marjorie Taylor Greene. For him, it should be an easy off script one, but you're talking about a mother here. If you don't know, a mother lost 2 sons, but it was in 2020. She lost her sons to this drug epidemic that's been going on in our country for years now. And Biden wants to pass the blame. Should I pass the blame to Trump or not? Similar to the East Palestine thing. Should I pass the game? Well, that's been debunked. But even if it was Trump's fault, should you pass the blame or not? No, it's 2 years ago. You're in office. You've been in office. Democrats had power. So here he is going to say, oh, the funny thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene is she was talking about something in 2020.
Mother who lost 2 kids to fentanyl, that I killed her sons. Well, the interesting thing is,
that was off script. He shouldn't have even done that. Even if the rest of it turned okay, you never in politics get up on a stage and say a mother accused me of unliving their sons. Even if it's true or not, this is not what you should be doing. He's known as the gaffe king for a reason. Even if he didn't do the laugh, even if everything after this went perfect, this should not have come out of his mouth. You have him on record reminding people who maybe didn't even know about it, about the mother who lost her 2 sons.
no, that I killed her sons.
What a bad political moment. Like, if you watch like political shows like West Wing or something like that, that ain't what you're supposed to do as the highest level of president. That's not smooth. That's a mistake. Unforced error. Just like when you play tennis, you hit the ball in the net, you hit it out of bounds. It was unforced error. You should have got it back in the court.
Well, the interesting thing is that fentanyl they took came during the last administration. Look.
And then he heard, and you see the look on his face. He's like, ooh, he could kind of hurt, and then he kind of moved on. Is it a big deal? No, it's not a big deal. But I do have a takeaway, though, that to me is a big deal. Separate from the whole little laugh and all that. It's not really a big deal. We know these aren't real people. He's a career politician. He doesn't know anything about real life. He's been in D.C. for about 50 years. He doesn't know anything about like what real work, real life is about. Nothing. So far removed from that, he might as well be an alien. But here's where I would go with this. Let me just first, Marjorie Taylor Greene brought this up, and I would say that if I were Brandon, I would do a quick apology just to say, hey, I didn't mean to laugh at a mother. You heard him say, poor mother, he was trying to have some type of empathy there. I would still apologize to clean that up. But if I were Marjorie Taylor Greene, I would apologize as well, because she was off with this this take that she had. Marjorie Taylor Greene basically brought up that this mother lost her 2 sons to this drug epidemic. And I don't know if she missed it or whatever, the date. If she didn't know, maybe she didn't know what the date was when they did, but it was under Trump. And my end comment on that is I'm not blaming Trump or Brandon for it. There's no need for that. It's perfectly fine to hold politicians accountable, of course. I mean, that's really all the show's about. Nicole Morgan, thank you for stopping by. Thank you, everybody, stopping by. What is middle MAGA? This is I digress for a second. Richard said, "What is middle MAGA? Is it Trump without the Q stuff?" I don't know much about Q, so I don't hate on Q. I don't promote Q. I don't know. I literally don't know much about it at all. It's not really has never really come across my wherever I read stuff and all that. I'll digress for a second. This is a good topic to kind of describe what middle MAGA is. I am pro transhumanism, and that's a weird, maybe for a lot of people, that's a weird take. Transhumanism is just the approach of advancing technology without limit, is all it is, meaning that it would even be a chip in your brain. The problem with transhumanism isn't the technology, just like the problem isn't the phone. With this laptop, I'm able to talk to you right now, Richard. The problem isn't the laptop. The problem is centralized control with only a few companies that make the laptops, only a few companies that do the software on the laptops, and they have control over everything. That's the true problem. But I'm all over the map. I'm on some things I am pro, believe it or not, universal health care, Medicare for all, some form of that, like Tulsi's plan. You don't get rid of the private insurance. In theory, with a government you could trust. Obviously, that's a utopia. But in utopia, I am pro-transhumanism, pro Medicare for all. I'm also libertarian. So I'm all over the place. That's really what it means. But this topic is fitting, though, for it. And I'll tell you why. Because I think both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Brandon should apologize and clear up if they haven't already. I don't know if they have. It's just too hard to always follow up with this. I got millions of stories to follow up with. But if they haven't, then they should apologize and clear up. Marjorie Taylor Greene should apologize for blaming Brandon. Even if it happened under Brandon's watch, you shouldn't blame him. Because it happened under Don Dada's watch. Are you going to blame him? No. So that's a mistake. Brandon should clear up, apologize for the laugh. I don't think he meant it as disrespect to the mother, but it just shows he's just not there. He's not clicking on all cylinders. He's like an old car. The car isn't running like it used to when you took it out the shop. I guess you could say Don Lemon should talk about who's past his prime right now. The other part of it is, here's what I need from you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this is why I say I'm in the middle. I think it would be, well, let me first actually talk about the story just for a second about the mother. The two sons thought they were taking this perk, this drug here. Rebecca Kessling, whose sons Caleb 20 and Kyler 18. I got two sons, man. It's tough reading this stuff. I am not gonna lie. I never had problem reading stories like this before I had two sons. Didn't just kind of apathetic, almost like a android robot or something like that. But they got the pictures of the sons here, the mother in tears, and the sons here. Man, this is not easy for me to cover this. But her two sons, they thought they were taking a different drug, and after they took it, it looks like I think it was an overdose. And she testified to the House Homeland Security Committee on Tuesday that more should be done to stop the import of this drug. And here's where I'm going to talk about kind of why I'm in the middle. I think instead of going after Brandon, he's irrelevant. He's an 80-year-old guy who's not going to be relevant in a year or two. There's no way. There's not enough fortification in the world. There aren't enough machines to manipulate in the world to get him through the process again. I just don't see it. So he won't be relevant. Even if he did, he's still not relevant. Trump isn't. I mean, Trump's got 4 years at max. He's not relevant either, to me, long term. Forget about the politics. How much more powerful would it be if MAGA, this is what I want MAGA to be. It's not, but this is what I want MAGA to be. If MAGA running the House committee there that brought that mother in, brought her in, and then brought in another mother. Maybe a mother from more of an urban area, or a mother that has experienced a different type of tragedy, to bring them together to create a non-woke intersectionality of, just like Nina Turner was talking about in East Palestine. She's like, I don't care if they were Pappy voters or not. They should be, they should have this, they should have this, because this is government. What's the point of government? I'm not really for a federal government, but if we have one, what's the point of it if it's not handling situations like East Palestine? And she said, I don't care what their race is. I'm paraphrasing, but she said, I don't care what their race is. I don't care if they voted for Pappy. It's the same as the issues in Mississippi. It's the same as the issues in Flint. Bring in an intersectionality for MAGA to advance. There's going to need to be some type of connection with people, not just on this, because you can see this is a border issue. This is a more of a non, cabal left type issue. This is more of a populist issue. Bring in a populist issue that maybe Nina Turner would take care about. Bring in two mothers, have that intersectionally. I know that one is about the border security, so I don't know how you do it. Maybe even outside of that, Marjorie Taylor Greene or the mother herself, reach out to somebody else. So you come to the House committee, the press, whoever, not by yourself, but with two stories where you both can share something and resonate with a cross-pollination of people. No different than, Tim Pool had Jimmy Dore on. Jimmy Dore's had Dave Smith on. Jimmy Dore's had Michael Malice on. You've got libertarians crossing with the left. I mean, these are people that don't agree on. There's a lot they disagree on, but they get together, talk about what you do agree on. And I think that'd be more powerful than the politics, is my thought. You get that intersectionality of things where we are common. MAGA is human. MAGA is not just on this one thing. It's for a lot of these things. It's a populist, not just right or left. And I think that would be more powerful. That's the opportunity that I keep seeing MAGA miss. And it's orders of magnitude more powerful than just going after Brandon. Let me know what you think. I don't know if I explained middle MAGA well there. I got that from, actually, it's a common term, but I actually got that from friend of show, River. River was like resident Brandon. So I like that term. Yeah, because it's the president without the P, and it's the disrespect of calling him Brandon. Better Witch said, I'm sorry what happened when you asked about MAGA. MTG, not for me. Tomato, is that what it is? You're not a fan of MTG? Explain why. I'm not. So I go by issue. I don't trust MTG, I'll say that. I wouldn't vote for her. I wouldn't support her for VP or anything like that. But when she's based, she's based. I don't care who it is. I mean, even Project Veritas, I don't like what happened with James O'Keefe, but if they do good work after, I'm not going to support them and anything like that. But if they do good work, then they're going to do good work. I'm not going to just take a position just because of protesters, an internal protest or something like that. So I would like MAGA to be true populism and address issues on the non-left. It's too bad there are no real populists in the House for them to work with, but Nina Turner basically gave an olive branch. So for me, if I'm Matt Gaetz, I'm reaching out to Nina Turner. She has influence. She's a powerful speaker. I've criticized her a lot for becoming too race heavy, but her last little clip there, let's make that a seed. Let's water that seed. If you don't know, Nina Turner was talking about East Palestine. That's why I'm tying that in. Water that seed so it grows to something else is what my take is. Moving on to the other babbling buffoon, and I do want to be a little bit lighter on this one. I did want to check the ID. I did not get to check the ID on this one, but I did watch the full broadcast and confirmed, at least through her mouth, that she was 18 years old. This is a young lady on one of these dating podcasts, and she had a regrettable moment on this episode. And it's hard if she's not if you've never been behind a mic. I don't know what her background is, but it was rough. It was rough.
I think like the biggest thing that like annoys me in like the whole dating world is like fucking talking stages. Like that shit's so annoying. Like the whole like, and just like the inconsistency in them. Like I literally like hate that like so much. But I think that's like my biggest thing. It's just like
What
So I think I understand what she's saying. This is about dating. I don't know. The volume might be a little low. It's hard for me to tell. This is loud as I can get it. But there's this young lady on the whatever podcast. Never heard of it before. Got millions of subscribers. I just subbed up. I'm getting into more of these dating stuff. Destiny has very smart jumped into that dating stuff and really broadened his horizon. He's very interesting too. But she's talking about dating apps here. And she's going to be inarticulate. That's kind of the point of this. But I will say, I do want people didn't understand what she was talking about with the talking stages. I know what she's talking about. I think she's talking about when you just get to know somebody through these apps. These kids are going through apps. Back in my day, you had to step to a shorty. You had the talking stage was really talking in real life. Now you're on these apps and you're just chatting back and forth. You need somebody like her. First, let me do a disclaimer. Guys, behave yourself. She said she's 18. I don't know how old she is. I don't want to see any milk emojis in the chat. No chocolate chip cookies. I need eye discipline. I don't need to hear how thick she is or isn't. But going back to the content.
I think like the biggest thing that like annoys me in like the whole dating world is like fucking talking stages. Like that shit's so annoying. Like the whole like, and just like the inconsistency in them. Like I literally like hate that like so much.
So what she's talking about, in my opinion, it's inarticulate, different than Brandon, of course, but you're seeing an 18, young stage. Brandon's 80, just turned 80 in November, I believe his birthday. And you're seeing that wide spectrum spanning over 6 decades of inarticulate. She's worse than Brandon here, but I think I know what she's talking about. Let me first say she's talking about, I think, just getting to know somebody, chatting with them, and they can ghost you. And she's on an app. She probably, we talked about this. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the dating type stuff because I think it's very interesting. Somebody like her, let's assume she is of age. She said she is of age. She could go on a dating app and she could probably get her choice of any dude, 30, 40, 50 dudes, making a lot of money. In the show, they actually asked her, does she have a sugar daddy? She said no, but she could have her choice based on these apps. So she's probably not talking to young guys. And if she goes in the app, she probably has 1,000 matches. So she's talking about 1,000 different guys paying through the app to try to holler at her, probably is what she's talking about. And you got to pick which one, and you got to say, hey, how you doing? What do you like? All that kind of small talk type of stuff in the beginning. And it's not in person for the most part. It's usually just chatting on chat. So the person it's impersonal. All you're seeing is a picture. You don't even see a voice on most of these apps. So she can't articulate herself. I wish the host, who I think is good, no diss to the host, I wish the host could have done a better job of kind of bringing that out. But, it's hard in the moment. But that's what I think she's talking about.
Like that shit's so annoying. Like the whole like, and just like the inconsistency in them. Like I literally like hate that like so much. But I think that's like my biggest thing. It's just like.
what specifically?
Just like the fact of just like, you like, I don't know how to word this. Like in like talking stages, and it's just like you're like labeled that, and it's like people like are considered like you can't like, you're just like confused, and like most of the time like the girl gets like attached or something, and they like see it like it's gonna lead to a relationship, and it's always not. And it's just like, that's like my biggest thing is like I just hate the whole like how like talking stages are so like normalized. Like traditional dating does not exist in this generation.
I think I see. So she didn't explain. I think she's talking exactly what I'm talking about, even taking it further to maybe, first couple dates. She's very young, so she's probably going to have time to mature. Who knows, what's going on those first dates and how far she's going, but that could play a role in it too. And it actually reminded me of the such as the Iraq. Do you remember that there was this pageant? Let me see if I can find it. There was that pageant, and it was Miss South Carolina or something like that. Let's see.
Okay.
Yes, it was Miss South Carolina, and her response wasn't very articulate either.
Okay. Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. Or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much.
Is that Mario Lopez with the smooth? It was a disastrous moment. He's not laughing or anything like that. He's like, thank you very much, and moves on. That bro hasn't aged like a moment. That was like 2007. That bro hasn't aged since I was watching Saved by the Bell in the 90s. That dude needs to be studied. But the comment here was by Alex Rosen. Social media has created a generation of narcissists that want instant reward and gratification for nothing. And that's an interesting response to this young lady's comments. And it made me think about behavioral sync. This is a study that I always constantly end up coming to in relation to what's happening in our world. I'm going to talk about some trans issues in a bit too. I think it covers that. I think it covers trans issues. It covers a lot of these environmental concerns from the younger generation, turning these things into religion. I said, this is behavioral sync from this young lady, potentially. Just looking at the grand scope of our country, I think it's behavioral sync due to an abundance of riches. There was this experiment done by John Calhoun, and it was really supposed to be, I think, a population control experiment where you overpopulate an area with mice and see what happens. But to me, the more interesting part of it is, because I don't think the overpopulation part is relevant to us right now. I think the part that's relevant is they never lacked for food. They never lacked for resources, food, water, anything they needed, they had. And we got homeless people with cell phones. So I think this applies to even many poor people or homeless people in America. Not everybody, but I think we have an abundance of riches. That's part of the story here with the app. So this is part of the story with this experiment. What does utopia look like for mice? According to the researcher who did most of his work, 50s through 70s, it might include limitless food. In a way, I don't know that young lady's upbringing, but she was pretty thick. I don't think she missed any meals. She wasn't fat or anything like that, but she was thick. But I think myself as well, I got heavy over the pandemic. And it, didn't walk around as much and didn't really have a lacking for food, that's for sure. And now I have to look at, it doesn't matter how much food I've got, put it in the freezer, do whatever, not to waste it, but I'm not eating portion sizes that are ridiculous. Still on that journey. But this applies to everybody, to me. We basically have, it's so good here in America, the greatness of America. Maybe not every country, but America we almost got limitless food. Even with the eggs being expensive, you can buy something else even if you can't afford them. You can shop on coupons. You can pretty much, some people have government assistance. You can pretty much get what you want. So you pretty much have, many people, limitless food. So there's no need for that. There's no need to kind of ration it and to treasure it. And these rat utopias spiraled out of control, and we're living that right now. I think the young lady's living that right now. I think the drug issue, the drug pandemic that I talked about with Brandon and unfortunately the mother who lost her 2 sons. There's a spoil of riches, and you look for an escape. There's no natural pain necessarily. I don't know about their life, just generally speaking. And you need an escape. So it spiraled out of control. The mice did stop becoming mice. The few secluded spaces housed the population Calhoun, who ran the experiment, called the beautiful ones. And that's what I think these ladies on this panel, all these dating, like is it Ab and Preach or whatever, those dudes and whoever else does that. I like Just Pearly Things. I like Just Pearly Things a lot. She does this type of stuff too. And she's more base though than a lot of the other ones. But the beautiful ones generally guarded by one male. The females and a few males inside the space didn't breed or fight or do anything but eat and groom and sleep. And that's what we've got. TikTok and this, these dating apps and all that. And, she might be matching with guys and they might be chatting. They might not even try to meet. They might not even ask her out. They're just on the app to get the dopamine hit. And do I look good? I'm grooming myself. They might even be working out too. When the population started declining, the beautiful ones were spared from violence and unliving, but had completely lost touch with social behaviors, including having sex or caring for their young. And that I just talked about young males not having or not even interested in sex as much as they used to be. Describes it exactly. I mean, it's really similar. Somebody asked me, William Black said, do you think that hormonal contraceptives are a behavioral sync enabler? And I'm not even sure. I mean, my understanding of hormonal contraceptives is these cocktails of more drugs that people take to prevent pregnancy type of stuff. And yeah, I do think it is. I do think it's a part of it. It might be early stages of it, but all of it's wrapped in. I think the hormonal contraceptives are a consequence of behavioral sync. It goes with the lack of sexual desire, loss of intelligence. It's part of the sexless, self-absorbed grooming. To me, is the part of, I don't, sex isn't about procreating. I'm going to take these pills and not have any children. So I'm not an expert here. I read a lot about this experiment, but if you look at it, Calhoun called them the beautiful ones, and yet even while obsessing over their appearance, the males had zero interest in courting females, zero interest in sex. Intriguingly, Calhoun had noticed in earlier utopias that such maladjusted behavior could spread like a contagion from mouse to mouse. Does that sound familiar? What do you think's happening with TikTok and the trans and all this? I think that is definitely being contagious. Young people, very vulnerable. I think it's affecting young people more while their brains are developing. That's not an accident. They're exposing them to this stuff, and it spreads like a contagion from mouse to mouse. He dubbed the phenomenon the behavioral sync. Let me know what you think. That's what I really think that's a very pertinent topic in society today. Thanks for stopping by. Meditation Muse. Watching Destiny Tyrant to Just Pearly Things shows her mindset is very limited. She a foundation in her thought, but when challenged, Pearl jumps to memes like women should lose voting rights. Yeah, but the thing I like about her is that she feels real to me. Like if she doesn't know something, she doesn't pretend to know, So I think they're playing off of each other. It's more interesting if you're kind of playing off of each other. I'm not saying that's fake when they talk, but I think they're focusing a little bit on the disagreements, but it makes for interesting stuff. Rampart says, environmental stress should affect fertility. That's true. I think absolutely it will. Bunches of banjos. I met my wife originally on OkCupid as well, Bunches of Banjos. That was 2012. Almost exactly 11 years ago. Bunches of Banjo says, I met my wife on OkCupid. It was a little different back then, though. I think the online game had not blown. It was more unusual back then. I met my wife on OkCupid 9 years ago. It works when you're looking for a chick with similar standards. Just avoid the party girls and those who have no direction and family values. Yes, I agree with that. And I preferred, I'm a data guy. I preferred OkCupid. This is 11 years ago, so I'm way out the game. But I did, mention another live that my wife and I are going through stuff, almost heading to divorce, but trying to fix it. So I do have good news there. Nothing set, but we're heading it in a different direction, a better, kind of a reconciliation direction. We'll see how that goes. I will be trying to fight to keep my family. But if you look at this, I like OkCupid because it's data focused. It's very, very, all these apps have tons of data, but OkCupid shares more data. They do mine a lot of data with these questionnaires from people like politics, social issues, personal, preferences, all kind. They got thousands of questions on this app, and you can kind of look through them and find someone who's conservative, maybe if that's what you're looking for, even libertarian if that's what you're looking for. And OkCupid's probably the best for that. These other apps don't let you do a lot of that. And notice these apps are very leftist. They're all controlled. You go on the app, you see, pro-choice type stuff, which is fine if you're pro-choice, but the app is pushing the pro-choice stuff. It's not. That's why I did a video way back in the channel about, was it Peter Thiel? One of them was trying to start a conservative dating app. You really do need that. Because if you're a libertarian, conservative, and you're not open-minded, or you want somebody more like that, those apps are not going to be for you. It's going to be harder, let me say that. But thanks for sharing that, Bunches of Banjos. Yeah, you can find good stuff on the app. Don't get me wrong. I met my wife 11 years ago on OkCupid. I've always been into like the internet and all that kind of stuff. Let's see here. Meditation Mule says, Middle Get Meg, I would suggest you reach out to Destiny. He's willing to talk to anyone on Discord, especially about politics and relationships. Oh, I'd love that. I don't agree with him. I think he's an establishment. He's very important because he appeals to authority, but he's probably the most articulate person that I've ever heard that is an authoritarian, in my opinion. But he's just through the roof bright, and I know in a weird way he's just so entertaining. Like, he doesn't try hard to be entertaining, and he really is. So I think very highly of him. Every time I bring up Destiny, I bring this up, but my wife politically is exactly like Destiny. She's exact. I keep telling her, you gotta watch Destiny. That's where you are politically. But I enjoy Destiny a lot. I'm just a great streamer. Even though I don't agree with him politically on a lot of stuff, he's an inspiration. And they fell out now, but I really liked when he and Nick Fury were getting together and debating, and they were really, very, very good. I don't know what happened. They, fell out or whatever. How about some insect meatballs, everybody? Bon appetit. IKEA, a store that I love going through IKEA. That's like a family trip of ours now. Every, 3 times a year or something like that. Even if we don't need furniture, maybe we'll get a spatula or something like that. But walking through IKEA is just fun. You kill an hour walking through IKEA. Just kids like it. Jump on a bed, get a teddy bear or whatever, and it's a good little. That's how boring I am. IKEA is our family date night. Costco is too, at times. But I'm not a fan of their food. Some people like their food. I don't like their food at all. We don't eat there much. I'm not a fan of their current meatballs. So I'm probably not going to like the experimentation they're doing with insect meatballs. IKEA is experimenting with insect meatballs, y'all, to make people think about how much meat they eat and encourage people to try alternative proteins. The new mealworm meatballs are developed by Space 10, IKEA's future living lab. Its test kitchen is developing many alternatives to popular foods, including bug birders, salads grown with hydroponics, and that's without soil, just nutrient-rich water. I didn't know about that. Microgreen ice cream, vegetarian but protein-rich hot dog. That looked disgusting. They're all experimental. That means they're nasty as hell. So Space 10 warns us not to expect them all on IKEA menus, but they showcase a possible future for food. Insects are more eco-friendly to rear than farm animals and could help tackle global food insecurity. Would you eat a mealworm meatball? I'm good, y'all. Brought to you by... No, this one wasn't brought to you by... This wasn't brought to you, if you're just tuning in, you never heard me play it. I got it queued up for the P group.
The 65th Grammy Awards is sponsored by Pfizer.
That one was not brought to you by the P group, but I don't know about y'all, but I'm good. And anybody trying to push that on me is somewhat of a threat, I would consider. So no, thank you. I don't like their food now. Why would I want? Who likes IKEA? I mean, some people like IKEA. I mean, it's been a long time since I had it because maybe the last experience wasn't so good. But who likes Hershey chocolate bars? The chocolate's out the wrapper, y'all. That probably wasn't the right phrase to use here. This probably wasn't the right phrase. I mean, she's not chocolate, but, and I will call her she. I do honor the pronouns as long as you are consistent with it. Faye Johnstone tweets, the chocolate's out of the wrapper. The surprise is over, y'all. Faye Johnstone is honored to be featured in this campaign by Hershey's Canada for International Women's Day, alongside 4 brilliant sisters and change makers. And here is the announcement.
My name is Faye Johnstone. I'm the Executive Director of Wisdom to Action. We can create a world where everyone is able to live in public space as their honest and authentic selves. See the women changing how we see the future at Hershey.
It's interesting to see a biological man include themselves in the we with women. And that's where we are on International Women's Day. What do these days even mean? It's just, we got too many days, I think. I don't need Black History Month, and I don't need International Women's Day. And if you disagree with that, then help me understand why on International Women's Day, Hershey's Canada has a biological male saying we. I'm proud to stand by we, all these women here. This is nothing personally against Faye Johnstone. I got no beef against you. You lived your life. You never came at me. I don't have any beef with you. I'm talking about the general principle of, I think it's time to cancel these days. It's jump the shark. We have biological men celebrating as a part of it International Women's Day. I think the day's over now. I mean, it's just like Rachel Dolezal celebrating Black History Month, if that were to happen. Here's Black History Month, and today's brought to you by a white woman, Rachel Dolezal. That's why I'm good with all the identity stuff. I actually would prefer to, because I think there are differences between men and women that can be celebrated identity-wise without being toxic. I think that is legitimate, different than color of skin. I don't do any of the color of the skin stuff to celebrate. I'm a Black male, you're an Asian male, we got to celebrate our different day. Nah, that don't make any sense to me. Now, if you talk about the country you're from, say you're from China, I'm from Jamaica, hypothetically. We can talk about our different cultures from our countries, but I don't need the color of the skin involved. And if we're both Americans, then we can just talk about being Americans. What you like? You like football or not? What do you like to do? But it's the days are done. I don't need Women's Day. I don't need Trans Day. I don't need Pride Month. I don't need White People Month. I don't need Black People Month. It doesn't mean anything if you've got a biological man celebrating International Women's Day. Stop it. And you know how that's presented to you. It's presented to you in a way where celebrate this with us or you're a bigot. Do you think you would have a chance at being hired by Hershey's if you went on record with your real name saying, I've got no beef with Faye Johnstone, but I'm not down with a biological man representing Women's Day. It doesn't make sense to me. You think you would get hired by Hershey's Canada? Comply, agree, celebrate, or you're a bigot. Those are your choices. That is why we refer to it as at least I do, neo-Marxism. It's just the dichotomy of two distinct choices. You can't be in the middle on this. They force you to one side or the other. If you're on the wrong side, you're the enemy, you get canceled. In a weird way, this was pointed out by Canon Hotep, who's just on with Timcast, man. That's his channel. He's really gotten really good with his channel. Shout out to Canon. I don't know him. I just like his work. He's gotten really, really good. I like he's very insightful. And I don't know if he came up with this, but he was like, damn, that looks like James O'Keefe. Does Faye Johnstone look like a trans James O'Keefe to you? I thought it was funny because it looks like a young trans James O'Keefe. And we were joking in the comments like, oh, that's how James got him. He got him. He could go on Grindr. He could go on Tinder. He could go anywhere and do that undercover work. I see you working, James. Is that your secret name, Faye Johnstone? That's crazy how much to me that looks like a young trans James O'Keefe. But I didn't get to see his live, but that was his thumbnail for his live. It's always wrapped up in a good cause, and I think I'm not going to question. I don't know Faye. I'm not going to question Faye's intent. That's irrelevant to my take. Faye says we still have a long way to go in the fight to end misogyny, patriarchy, and that takes a lot of balls, I would say, no pun intended, to say we have a long way to go in the fight to end patriarchy when it's a man celebrating International Women's Day. I probably would have left that one out. And gender-based violence. I hope this campaign helps give more young women and girls role models and possibility models and shows them how we can change the world. We can change the world together. I don't know if that was a typo or not, but that's where you're at. Some people had trouble taking this topic seriously. I'm going to need you guys to stop joking. Come on, Maze. You're better than this. Maze Moore. I'm just joking. I'm a big fan of Maze Moore, a great memer, tweeter. Maze Moore says, nowadays life is like a box of chocolates. You never know which one will have nuts. Okay, I don't know what he means by that. Moving along, women were chiming in, and women probably have to speak up more than me. Women, Coco says, fixed it for you. Not a her or a she. Not a her or a she bar. To be fair to Hersey, they did have biological women involved as well. That would have been crazy if it was only that. But women, they had some serious takes too. I think you have to hear them out. And I'll give you my takeaway in a second. Womanhood is not a costume, charade, or feeling. You'll never be a woman ever. That's not coming from me. That's coming from feedback from a woman. And I think that's something that Hersey, if you're really about inclusion and loving type company, you would hear that feedback from both sides. That's not coming from me. That's from somebody who looks to be a woman on the app. So my takeaway is this is a good moment for people to be respectful and to speak out. And speak out what your truth is. And Hersey, I'll give the same feedback to Hersey that I gave to Disney. If you really were about what you proclaim to be about, what I would expect from you is for you to say, we want to include a trans woman as a part of this campaign. We hear all your feedback. If you don't believe in our actions here, we're not against you. This is why we believe it. This is why we believe it's positive. We don't want to go against anybody. They never say that. They never make a statement like that to say, hey, if this is against your beliefs, or hey, we have this other day for people who believe, I don't know if you want to call it Christianity Day, whatever, I don't know what it is, but you would have a day to balance it out. You would be able to come and say, hey, it's just a chocolate bar. We don't care if you're a biological woman, man, whatever, trans, just get a Hershey Kisses on us. Same thing as Disney. We don't care. We shouldn't care, in my opinion, shouldn't care what color, what anything you are. We make movies to sit down and for everyone to be entertained for 2 hours. That's all we do. And we are going to put diversity because we believe in that, but no hate to anybody. No, you don't get that because it's not about that. It is about hate. They put it in a good package to make it tough for you to speak against it, but they are the hateful ones. This is how it manifests as well. This is another clip from whatever. Went viral again. It's whatever. They get millions of views. Here's what happened when a young man spoke his truth. He can't have his preference. This young man right here can't have his preference. Where are we going at? Where are we going with this?
Chase, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world or the oldest woman in the world?
So this is part of the reason why these shows are so good. It's like these fun questions to answer. And so his question was, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world or the oldest?
Chase, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world or the oldest woman in the world?
And there is no right or wrong for that. And I've done videos talking about there are biological men who can, with makeup or whatever, look better than some of the women on this stage. But if you said smash, it's not possible. My take is it's not possible for me to smash someone who's trans. They don't have the right equipment. So what do you mean by that? It's not possible. And he's basically going to go down that same route.
Chase, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world or the oldest woman in the world? Honestly, bro, the oldest woman in the world, because then I wouldn't be gay.
What?
So he's a young man. He said it in a more spicy way than I did, but didn't he basically say the same thing that I said? What do you mean smash a trans woman? They don't have the right equipment. Like, how would that even be possible? No. But it's not, it's fine, whatever your take is on it, but he can't have his take. So you see him looking like, oh, I got the feedback already. So he was like, nah.
Be gay.
What? You really just want me to just rip you a fucking new one. I swear to God.
Are you like...
Here you go again with a typical leftist going straight to violence. They go straight to violence.
Chase,
Yeah.
how dare you be transphobic?
Yes, actually. What the fuck do you mean? Yes, that was so
Because if I
unnecessary.
had sex with a trans woman, I'd be having sex with a biological...
She's literally saying it's transphobic because he doesn't want to have sex with a trans woman. What? That's what it turned. Look at this face. This is a good face palm. I should clip that. He's face palming, but he knows it's a viral moment, so he's feeling good too. That's the same continuation of celebrate the trans woman representing international women or you're a bigot. Now it goes to smash a trans woman or you're a bigot. What? Huh?
You really just want me to just rip you a fucking new one. I swear to God.
Are you like... Chase,
Yeah.
how dare you be transphobic?
Yes, actually. What the fuck do you mean? Yes, that was
Because
so
if I
unnecessary.
had sex with a trans woman, I'd be having sex with a biological man, and I don't want to do that.
The question is,
That's not what you said, though. That's fine. If that's
Because
what you
I'd
want
be
to say.
gay if I had sex
That's
with a
not
biological
gay.
man.
That's not gay.
That's
And
gay.
I don't even care if you're
Who cares what it is? He said he didn't want to do it. Who cares what the label is on it?
doing this for like whatever, but like shut the fuck up. Actually,
I'm doing
You
it
look
for
like
what
you have a
Hey,
leader
why-
respect
why don't-
his
why don't-
street
That's too far.
identity.
That's
Why don't
too
you
fucking
Why don't
far.
you make me
That's
shut
too
the
far.
fuck up? Because I have an opinion that differs from yours.
She's right. I mean,
Yeah, I like where he took it. He's like, wait a second, you're being very aggressive right now. For my opinion, he didn't diss anybody. To me, he wasn't even really insensitive to anybody. He just said that would make me something I don't want to be. That's insensitive now?
Too far.
Identity.
That's
Why
too
don't you
fucking
Why don't
far.
you make me
That's
shut
too
the
far.
fuck up? Because I have an opinion that differs from yours.
And the reason I want to play this video is this young man right here represents Scott Adams. He represents myself. I've had enough. I can have my preference. Well, you can call me a bigot. I know how that works. I don't care. I have my opinion. It's not to diss anybody or whatever else. If I can't have my own preference, we are in a very dangerous place. And this young man right here represents it all in this little clip. It's just a microcosm of what's going on in the country right now. More and more people are going to step up. Not enough right now, but that's what this is.
she's right. I mean, that's really
But
hateful,
she's
bro.
not.
She's right. It's really, what was hateful? What was hateful? They're so emotional.
Because I have an opinion that differs from yours.
You want to know how you have a biological man representing Hersey's Canada on International Women's Day? This is how.
And I don't even care if you're doing this for like.
So you have the other ones that have, they probably, agree with him potentially. I didn't watch this whole one, and they don't say anything, at least in this clip.
Whatever, but like shut the fuck up. Actually,
I'm doing
You
it
look
for
like
what-
you have a
Actually, one of them I think does.
leader
why don't-
respect his
why don't-
street
That's too-
identity.
Yeah, she says it right here. We respect his.
It's not gay.
That's
And I don't
gay.
even care if you're doing this for like whatever, but like shut the fuck up. Actually,
I'm doing
You
it
look
for
like
what
you have a
Hey,
leader
why
respect
don't-
his
why don't-
street
That's too far.
identity.
That's
Why don't
too
you
fucking
Why don't
far.
you make me
That's
shut
too
the
far.
fuck up? Because I have an opinion that differs from yours.
She's right. I mean, that's really
But
hateful,
she's
bro.
not. She's not. It would technically be homosexual. A trans woman is a biological man. Sue me. It's true.
Fuck, dude, that's mean. I also gotta go.
It's not fucked up. It's real.
That's
It's
his.
true.
Okay, if you guys want to
It's
respect gender
factual.
identities, that's his though. That's his
That's a great question. She's like, well, I got to respect your identity. You can't respect how I view it? No, they don't.
You guys want to
It's
respect gender
factual.
identities, that's his though. That's his sexuality.
And not to mention, he is factually right.
Any opinions you want, but
I'm
that
not allowed to
part
say that.
was
I'm
too
not allowed
fucking
to say
far.
that.
Yes, from a biological woman who doesn't even have any trans friends, that was too fucking far.
What?
A man of God who doesn't judge a Christian.
I like his face, how he's looking at her like, okay, you got more to say? I have 0 fucks to give. That's the face he has right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what God said? It said he made the man and women.
Suck a fat cock.
He made the man and woman. I just told you I'm not gay. I'll pass on that. Thanks though.
Really, 'cause you feel like you're fucking projecting.
Who knew that stating biological facts would make people walk off the show?
Bass bro, let me know what you think on that clip. It's just a great clip. Those shows, they create like magical viral moments. So you see why Destiny wants it on them, and they're just really good. So let me know what you think on that one. I thought that was a cool clip. Going still on the transgender type issue, Zuby had a very good clip I saw here where he made an argument that, and I agree with him completely, that there is more legitimacy to being transracial than there is to being transgendered.
Said transracialism makes more sense than transgenderism.
How?
Because race is actually a spectrum. Race is actually a social construct. Gender is binary. There's male and female. That's it. There's nothing else, right? Race is actually a spectrum, right? If I were to have a child with an Asian woman, my child is going to be mixed. If she is mixed and we have a child, the child is going to be. Race is it's actually a social construct. Yes, it's based on our DNA and ancestral history, but these terms we use, nobody's actually black, nobody's actually white, no one's actually these literal colors. Right? If someone is mixed race, with the fact that we even call them black, right? If we call Drake black or we call Barack Obama black, right? They're just as white as they are black, but due to the social construct, we call them black in many cases. So it's actually socially constructed and it's genuinely a spectrum. You can meet someone and you're like, okay, what race are you? And it's like, well, I don't know. Like my grandparents are from here, my mom's from here, my dad's from here. Said transracialism.
Just another, Zuby is he's just bass bro. Like Zuby is it's just amazing how based he is in all of his takes and respectful too. And I agree with him completely. My wife is white. My kids are now mixed. My parents are from Jamaica. I was born in the States though. My wife's got family, going back to Germany, England, Poland. What are my kids? The society is going to call them black. Did that make any sense? No, it doesn't make any sense at all. And in a way, they kind of will identify however they want to identify. I'm not going to make them identify with anything, but I will tell them the truth. This is your family history. You could basically break it down simple. I'm black, your mom's white. That's what it is. I mean, you can make up a word for it. You can make up slang words for it, but that's what it is. And it clearly is on the spectrum. Because what if they get married? They have children. What if they marry an Asian woman? What child do they have? It's all on the spectrum. What Zuby says makes a lot of sense. The transracialism, not that I agree with it, it makes way more sense than transgenderism. That's some foolishness. That's something that I will respect. And I called Faye Johnstone her, Keffels, I call Keffels her, and because I'm not here to have beef. If you're consistent with how you present, especially if you dress like a woman, it's just easier for me to look at you as some type of, she or her, even though we all know the truth. I'm just not switching up every month or every day. I'm not doing all that. I'm not doing they, it, none of that kind of nonsense. But that reminds me, I reached out to Keffels. Keffels had me blocked. And I don't know what happened, if she just unblocked me or what. But I like Keffels a lot. If you don't know Keffels, I didn't plan to talk about this, but let me see if I can find like a interact. I don't think she ever replied to me, but that's weird how she unblocked me though. I did not expect that. I wonder if she just unblocked everybody. But I never had beef with her. And let me do this here. Let me get into, because this is on the trans issue, and this is where I would do a call out. Keffels had Shoe on Head on the other weekend. It was a great live stream. Keffels is really talented. I like Keffels a lot. I actually like Keffels. It hurts me to see the whole, I don't even know if you can say it on YouTube, the K Farms thing that went down. It's just so aggressive. But Keffels on Twitter said, I don't know where this idea comes from, but I guarantee you engaging with and pushing back against transphobic ideas is harmful. Avoiding conflict and being in an echo chamber where you are perpetually hugboxed by, she's very good with words. She's very, very creative with her words. I never heard that before. Hugboxed by progressives isn't going to make fascists not want us unlived. And I actually agree with a little piece of this. Avoiding conflict and being in an echo chamber is not good. We agree with that. But there was a reply to this. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know why I can't find it, but let me bring it up here. It was an interaction with me and Keffel. So then somebody else, this was, not being a debate bro means you're in an echo chamber. So what was going on was somebody was going to debate Keffels. And I was like, I like this. I was like, let's have a conversation. I don't know why we have to label it debate, but for marketing purposes, I get it. Then Keffels replied, I get that you don't like me, but in what world is it unacceptable to want to push back against the people that want me and everyone like me unlived? And I don't know who wants people unlived. Maybe there are people out there. I don't talk to them. I don't know them. If you don't know, Keffels is a trans live streamer. It looked like she's doing more YouTube stuff now. Used to be on Twitch. I didn't know who she was until the K Farm stuff popped off months ago. And I was like, I got no beef with Keffels. And this is when I found out she had, I don't know what happened. I'm not blocked by her anymore. So I replied and I was like, I have no beef with Keffels. I think she's an epic trash talker. I think, like, if I was still gaming, I think I'd have no problem gaming with her and, trash talking or whatever, on the same team against whatever. Very witty, entertaining, and extremely talented streamer. I don't see why we can't coexist without taking it to deplatforming and other acts of aggression outside of normal debate. So Keffel focuses on, I'm sure there are people who want her unlived. I don't know, but I'm going to assume she's accurate there. Why focus on that radical group? That's obviously people who are just radical beyond belief, wanting anybody to be unlived. What kind of radical minority are you focusing on? Most people aren't like that. Most people wouldn't even have beef with you if you didn't exert beef to them. If you didn't project. So my point is, you're not helping, Keffels. I got no beef with you, but you're not helping anything. Obviously, it doesn't help with marketing to kind of not focus on the radical side, and maybe that's where it comes from. But my point is, don't put that label on everybody. I got no beef with you. Never had beef with you. Then Dan replied to me, said, she's a reactionary rad lib grifter. Okay, we can all be labeled grifters. What is that? So what? You give her your money if you want. Nobody's stopping you. I don't like her that much. I ain't giving her the money just because there's other people I like, that aren't. I would have no problem giving her money if I had money to give her, if I thought she was helping relations, this whole cultural battle, helping us to respect each other. I would have no problem giving her money, but she's not doing that. So it's just not for me. I said, that's fine, but I didn't hear you say she was bad at her profession. So notice he's like, she's a reactionary rad lib grifter. He didn't say she was a trash streamer. Nobody who really watches her can say she's a trash. Ricada, I don't think Ricada could even say that. I think Ricada has secretly, I haven't been in a Ricada live in a minute. I kind of missed that. I need to go back in, but I haven't heard him ever say she's a whack streamer. That would be a lie. She's entertaining. She's very good. And I was like, I can tell, Dan, that you respect her. You wouldn't be going at her if you didn't. And I want to have more conversation like that, to be like, where are we taking this stuff, man? I'm tired of this stuff. We don't need to be We're making enemies out of each other when we're not even enemies. What's the purpose of that? If you want to understand why people have a concern, Mark Lamont Hill's interaction with Candace Owens, I've talked about before. I'm going to relive it. I'm going to do this again. He brought it up. Mark Lamont Hill said, I see that the heavily edited clip from my 2020 conversation, the clip I got, what I think was from 2018 or 16. I don't know. Maybe there was another conversation or the date's wrong. But his conversation with Candace Owens is making its rounds again. I'm going to play that clip. My position is the same. Yes, some men can get pregnant, trans men. For some reason, some of you are deeply outraged by this. That is disingenuous. Nobody's outraged by that. Nobody's outraged by you saying trans men can get pregnant. Nobody's outraged. I'm going to tell you why people are outraged. I'm not sure why this rattles y'all so much. Disingenuous nonsense by Mark Lamont Hill. Here's the clip. I actually clipped it and replied to him on a different conversation with the clip with Candace Owens. And here's it's not the full context, but the gist of it.
Is what I'm saying is more complicated.
But it's not complicated. Can men give birth?
Sometimes. That's my answer. Yes.
And the answer that is crazy. And this is we cannot
Look at his face when he says it. I don't think he believes it. Look at his face. Why does he look like that? That's not how he normally looks. He looks, I don't know, he looks scared or uncertain. That's not who this bro is. If you don't know Mark Lamont Hill, very, very confident, borderline arrogant. I respect him a lot for having this conversation. Always want to give a shout out to Candace Owens and him. Candace Owens will talk to anybody. So that goes without saying. Mark Lamont Hill doesn't, he talks with a lot of people, but credit to him for having this. But look at his face when he says it. He's like, wait, can men get pregnant?
It's not complicated. Can men give birth?
Sometimes. That's my
He doesn't believe it.
answers. Yes.
And the answer that is crazy. And this is we
And that's my take on it. He doesn't believe it. It doesn't sound authentic to me. That actually, when I posted that, this was in regards to the White Lives Matter stuff. So you look at it and his cringe takes, so many of these takes from intellectuals, I think he has a PhD, or, educated type, these talented 10th types. It happens to Mayor Pete too. Mayor Pete doesn't believe talking about all this CRT and the construction workers of different colors. He doesn't believe none of that. They're doing it because they feel like they have to. That's the problem I have. And this shows it here too. Kanye West's decision to wear a White Lives Matter shirt is disgusting, dangerous. What? And irresponsible. Some of y'all will rush to defend him. You should ask yourself why. I'm not going to rush to defend Ye. I want you to explain yourself how a White Lives Matter shirt affects anything. And then I replied to that clip. I was like, you can sit this one out. You think men can get pregnant. So what? Who cares what you think about this? But back to that topic. This is the end of it for me is, Mark, this is the real problem. What rattles people is that someone in Mark's position, I think he's with BET now, he always has a prominent position in news anchor type of stuff. I think he used to be on CNN and stuff. For those positions, CNN, to get promoted in YouTube algorithm, to get in with these big companies, to work at Hershey's, what rattles people is that someone in Mark's position has to say this or they won't be in his position. I think that's the real thing that rattles. If you could have a take on any spectrum and not really worry about it, put your real name to it, all that, I don't think people would care that much. I really don't. Let me know if I'm off on that. I don't think people would care at all about it. Let me know what you think. Benji, let me see if I can pronounce that right. Benji Michon. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Love that interview with Lamont and Candace Owens. I wish some of these folks goes on their shows instead of the left always going on their shows. Just a thought. It was a great discussion. I thought it was a great discussion. They were both, Candace Owens is always respectful. And she's had discussions with Hank, what's his name? Hank Williams? Is it Hank Williams or whatever? The New York Black Lives Matter chapter dude. I've actually chatted with him too online. That's another good thing about Twitter, man. I would never really be able to chat with a lot of these people without Twitter and DMs. But yeah, let me know what you think about the Mark Lamont Hill stuff on that. I want to relive this tweet from Lori Lightfoot. If you want to know why people are kind of excited and the memesters have gone crazy with her being ousted in Chicago. I did forget about this until Laura in my prime Lynn, that's a funny tag. She must have a lot of followers. Oh no, that blew up then. Wow, yeah, that tweet blew up. Hey Chicago, never forget. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, real tweet here, Chicago mayor. To put it simply, if you have been living without the Jabberwocky, your time is up. If you wish to live as with the ease to do the things you love, you must get the Jabberwocky. This health order may pose an inconvenience to those who don't have the jab, and in fact, it is inconvenient by design. This was December 21st, 2021, and these people want to act like this type of stuff didn't happen. The pandemic and BLM is what did Mayor Lori Lightfoot in. One of the guys running in the runoff, I believe it's Johnson, it's Vallis and Johnson, I believe it's Johnson who's the far left guy, is more to fund the police than Lori Lightfoot is. And I think what happened is this type of nonsense, if this guy wins, which he could because it will consolidate the Lori Lightfoot and potentially the black vote there in Chicago. So I don't know who's going to win the runoff. I think it might be him because the vote is going to get consolidated. But I think that is the reason why these type of things that happen out of the pandemic are the reason why people are now celebrating her not being there. Broken Traditions, friend of the show, thanks for stopping by. Go check out. I was on with Broken Traditions, man. We had a good discussion talking about Democrats and the relationship with Black Americans. And always a good discussion. I got to reach out, get Broken Traditions back on the channel. Super chat just saying, showing love to the channel. Thank you, sir. Much love to Broken Traditions. Check him out. You just click on his name there. Head over to his channel, man. That channel is blowing up. Just great work. I like authentic people. I like people who just talking like, oh yeah, that's the real person. And then they make you think too. It's worth a sub. Easily worth a sub. Actually, I think I talked with Broken Traditions about this. This is a clip that's going on the rounds right now from the internet. I take a lot of this stuff from Twitter, so of course I found it on Twitter. But it's Issa Rae and her take on it's another kind of a race take, you could say. But her show was good. Anybody watch Insecure? Season 1. Season 1 of Insecure was top-notch television. It was really, really good stuff. You can kind of see that they took some inspiration, in my opinion, from Seinfeld. Season 1 of, I digress, of Insecure. If you don't know who I'm talking about, let me look up the Insecure TV show. HBO has had some great shows, man. They've had some great. I watched every episode of season 1. Season 2 wasn't that. How many seasons they had? 5 seasons of Insecure. Wow. I don't know if I even made it through season 2, but this was a heck of a show. This was a very, very, very good show. The music, the soundtrack, everything. So I'm no diss to her. I mean, she's really bright. Season 1 is a really, really good show. It was almost like a black Seinfeld. It was almost like a black relationship focus. Seinfeld was self-deprecating humor, intelligent writing, through the roof writing, just dragged you into the characters. Insecure was a very good show to me. But when we look at where she is, and it reminds me where I was. I think I talked about this with Broken Traditions. Here's Issa Rae on the red carpet and talking about who she's going to support.
And last but not least, who are you rooting for tonight? I'm rooting for everybody black. I am. Betting on black tonight.
5 years ago here at the Emmys, you told us that you were rooting for everybody black. Tonight, Issa Rae, who are you rooting for?
Everybody black, nothing has changed. It will never change.
She's not joking. She's smiling. She has a lot of charm to her. She's very charming. I think she looks really great. That dress that's a very nice dress. She looks great there. But the reason I bring that up is not to diss her. That was me in 2008 voting for Barack Obama. I wasn't as black as her, talking about I'm voting everybody black, but it was the same concept. Went into the voting booth. Who are you voting for in 2008? Do you know much about him? He had the charisma, all that, of course. He seemed qualified, so it's not like I was voting for somebody I didn't think was qualified, but it just felt good. Why did you vote for Obama? And I'm talking to myself in 2008.
Everybody black, nothing.
Because he was half black. He's not even full black. I mean, that's a silly concept. He's as much black as he is white. But that's why I voted for Obama. So I'm going to tell her I don't have that mentality now, but I'm not going to act like I never really had that mentality. Had to grow up and mature. And I wasn't even that young in 08. It's not like I was 18 years old. I had voted before that for Clinton. I had never voted in general election, never voted Republican. I'm trying to think if I ever voted for a Republican down ballot. I don't even remember the down ballot votes. But I've never, in a general election, I've never voted for a Republican, believe it or not, for president. But that's my take on that. Just a interesting little clip that I saw there. I wanted to clip and bring up on the channel. It's weird. At one point I was voting. I'm going to end with this. At one point, I voted for Barack Obama, and I never in my life would have thought that I would be a supporter of Harriet Hagerman. That you would have never told me that. Harriet Hagerman was, I would have considered an establishment. Maybe she still is, and I just, she's kind of tricking me now, or I don't know. But I would have considered her a kind of a establishment type of person. This is the woman in the house. If you don't know Harriet Hagerman, let me get the clip up here. This is just a YouTube short.
It's a flat out F.
And she's just fire in this clip. So I'm going to play this in a second. But that's her. Am I sharing my screen? No. This is her right here. If you don't know, Harriet Hagerman, and she's the one that beat Liz Cheney, destroyed her politically in Wyoming. And her history of like how she came up through the Republican Party is very interesting. I mean, I would have considered her a establishment candidate. I mean, her and Liz Cheney were roll dogs for a while. I mean, that's how different things were. Hagerman, this woman right here, Hagerman, who went heads up with Liz Cheney, destroyed her, used to roll with her around 2014, all that same time, while Obama was still relevant. And I would have never, I wasn't as much against Liz Cheney back then, believe it or not. I didn't like Dick Cheney or whatever, but I wasn't as populist as, I didn't know who I was at that moment. And she was very establishment, very tied into the Cheney family. And she's kind of flipped over to Trump. And to me, that's not an easy flip to make. It's not a convenient flip to make. And it's just weird for me every time I hear her now to hear her this based.
I've never seen anybody as destructive of our country as the current administration. I lived through the Jimmy Carter years with 15% interest and 18% inflation. The Jimmy Carter years were a disaster, especially to people in the ag industry and other highly leveraged industries. I grew up on a ranch near Fort Laramie, Wyoming, and he was terrible for our industry. Joe Biden across the board has been the worst president in my lifetime. And I think probably the worst president in U.S. history. By every single metric that you would judge someone like Joe Biden, he has failed. He has failed to keep us safe. He has failed to address the issues that are important to the American public. It's a flat out F. I've never seen anybody as...
I'm going to let it go one more time. She rattled it off. I'm going to play another clip from her. She is one of the best right now at articulating these points. It doesn't sound as cliche. It sounds well prepared. Maybe she's too polished. Maybe I'm making too much out of it. But she resonates with me now a lot.
As destructive of our country is the current administration. I lived through the Jimmy Carter years with 15% interest and 18% inflation. The Jimmy Carter years were a disaster. Especially to people in the ag industry and other highly leveraged industries. I grew up on a ranch near Fort Laramie, Wyoming, and he was terrible for our industry. Joe Biden across the board has been the worst president in my lifetime. And I think probably the worst president in U.S. history. By every single metric that you would judge someone like Joe Biden, he has failed. He has failed to keep us safe. He has failed to address the issues that are important to the American public. It's a flat out F.
Just really well said. And I tweeted earlier today, I'm like, this is just a weird place to be in for me. I don't care. I'm gonna support her based on what I'm seeing. I will have to follow her more closely now because I'm just surprised at where I am. It's just like you're looking at yourself like, wait a second, how did I get here? That's basically how I'm viewing it. I said never in my life would I thought that I would have been a supporter of Harriet Hageman, but here I am. Every time she's spoken over the last year, it's been fire. Here she is again. This is a CPAC clip.
Governments fail when you have an unequal justice system. When you treat one segment of society one way and another segment of society a different way, eventually you lose your ability to work together and to have a cohesive government and to have a cohesive society. So it's incredibly important that we challenge that it isn't just, well, why are you going after this? And it's not fair and you treat Donald Trump differently. Any 3-year-old knows that you should treat everybody the same. That's why we have an equal protection clause in the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. So we need to call these things out for really what they are. The Department of Justice is engaging in blatant politics in violation of the oath of office, again, that those people took. And we need to name names. Governments fail.
Well said. I will still give the feedback that I would like to see these politicians do more of an olive branch to people that normally, and this is regardless of race, people that normally wouldn't support them. Because I think this applies bigger than Trump, of course, and I don't think the olive branch is as big as I would like it, but there's nobody doing that. So I'm not going to knock her separate from anybody else. Matt Gaetz has a little bit, but there's nobody really doing that. And, but she, every time I hear her speak, it's like, man, she's really bringing the heat, bringing the fire. And she came very hard when it came to the border crisis as well. She's very good on these topics. She's probably, where I'm going, she's probably going to get somewhere as far as like a cabinet or something. She's very good on TV as well.
Harriet Hageman, Congresswoman, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You went from Yuma, Arizona, where you were this week at that Judiciary Committee field hearing, to here. What can you report to us?
Well, I can report to you that there is a very serious crisis on the border, and the current administration is, I wouldn't say ignoring it, I think that it's intentional. Going down there and meeting with the people in the hospital, at the food bank, the farmers and growers that are producing our food down there, we're hearing real life stories of the impact that this failed policy is having on real life people. It is a tragedy. It's a tragedy from the standpoint of the drug smuggling. It's a tragedy in terms of the human trafficking. We are dealing with a crisis down there, and the Biden administration is only exacerbating it and making it worse every single day.
Harriet Hageman, Congresswoman, thanks for being here.
I'm going to leave out with, this is a clip from her rally that this is the first time she caught my attention. She's running against Liz Cheney, and I'm like, what is she doing? She's one of those dry dinosaurs. I almost thought of her like a Mitch McConnell type without the power. But here's what I'm going to leave you out. This is when I first noticed, like, wait a second, she's kind of resonating.
In short, we're fed up with inflation and all of the related monetary policies that are threatening to turn the greatest country on earth into a third world failure. We're fed up with the Green New Deal and the socialists who created it. We're fed up with the attacks on our fossil fuel and energy industries, the good-paying jobs that they support, the incredible standard of living that they provide, and the clean and abundant energy that they produce. We're fed up with an open border. We're fed up with human trafficking. We're fed up with fentanyl flooding our country, and we're fed up with illegal immigration. We're fed up with people, countries, and organizations who believe that we are responsible for protecting the border integrity of every country on earth, but not our own. We're fed up with critical race theory. We're fed up with boys competing in girls' sports. We're fed up with absolutely.